This is Suzanne Wagner. Thank you so much for joining me. I am doing the numerology and the astrology for October 12th, 2020. If you add all those numbers together, you get the number 8. Now, the number 8 is the number of sadness and loss. It's a number that is associated with deep emotions, deep feelings. It's also associated with the emotions that we tend to hide, or we don't address, or we don't look at. And so I always think of it like, it's a figure 8, that, we have the highest part of the figure 8 is the top part. It comes down your front, between your legs, up your spine, flips over the top of your head. So you have this spiritual self that's connecting through the mind and the masculine aspect of God and into the heart. And then when it connects to the heart, it actually will drop down into the lower dimensions. And so I always feel like the higher vibrations are always trying to penetrate the density. And the density is this human condition. This density is the physical world, the emotional world, and how we so get lost in our emotions, so get lost in the sauce. The feminine aspect of God talks to us in our gut, which is why the brain is squiggly, and the masculine aspect of God talks to us through the mind and knowledge and numbers and information and, transcending things. The feminine aspect of God talks to us through our gut instincts. We live in a society that is overweight, overwrought, unable to express its emotions. We don't have environments that are conducive to that. And then we've had COVID, so everybody has been sort of stuck at home confronting a lot of heavy emotions that maybe they haven't confronted because they've had escape valves. So they've had exercise classes or yoga classes or something, and all of a sudden you don't have those, and so all these emotions start bubbling up. And so what I'm noticing with this particular number 8 year is that, it's more than despair at this point. It's more than sadness. It's more than loss. There's a deeper thing. So the number 8 is really about the emotional quagmire that we tend to sit in and that we find ourselves in at the moment. Yeah, and my God, everyone has been feeling, hip deep in despair, which is the number 8. But some turn that despair from an internal feeling into an external expression. And then that despair needs to have a reason. And that reason turns to blame, and that blame turns to hate. Everybody see that sequence as it goes along? So I always say we have a primary emotion, and then we have a secondary emotion. A primary emotion for me tends to oftentimes be hurt. And my secondary emotional response, being a Leo, is to be powerful and strong and aggressive and determined and stuff like that. But that's confusing to people. So if I'm hurt and they can sense that I'm hurt, but then I'm suddenly attacking or lashing out, you can see the confusion that they're like, wait, I think you're hurt, but now I feel like I have to defend myself, right? So right now, I think it would be very important for everyone to start paying attention to what is their primary emotion and what is their secondary emotion, and to not let that secondary emotion to lash out, but to go back to your primary emotion and to figure out what's going on. Because what I'm seeing is a lot of people are hurt. A lot of people are sad. A lot of people are scared. But what they're doing is they're turning to a secondary emotion, which is blame, attacking, negativity, aggression, lashing out, hate, violence. So they're taking a primary emotion, which is almost always related to sadness or fear, and they're turning it into a secondary emotion, which is really not productive in a civilized society, which we are not being at the moment. We are not being a civilized society. So, some people think that the opposite of love is hate, but that is not true. The opposite of love is disinterest. Notice the things that you ignore or push aside. When you do that, you are not allowing yourself to have the fullest expression of something. Now, There are people and situations that are so toxic that it is unsafe and unhealthy to continue. And that must become a choice that allows for you to protect you, but that you still hold in your mind the ability for that person to evolve and grow. Just not with you as part of their process. When you define someone as unable to change or grow, that is where the seeds of hate get planted. Hate is an emotional expression that is born from anxiety and dread. Okay, so take a look at that for a second. Okay, hate is an emotional expression that is born from anxiety and dread. In the negative, it manifests as outrage and hate. Hate is a long-term expression. So like in the areas of the brain, hate, and you know, I've seen this happen just even recently, that somebody goes, oh, I hate that person. And I'm like, oh my God, that was like 40 fucking years ago. I mean, like, can we let things go, for God's sakes? I mean, do you not give everybody a chance to have a mistake or fuck it up or do something when you're young that's completely stupid and insane? I mean, are you going to lock in that hate? And hate has this long-term, like, you know, it lodges in your mind and it becomes a part of your identity. And when something locks into an identity level, it's much harder to get it out because of the area of the brain that it's actually in. So hate is a word that is designed to project that something or someone is unlovable and unworthy of care and acceptance. It is a word that intends to shame that person or thing and then make them feel guilty for being. It is often projected onto a larger category that the person or situation cannot control or change. So we label groups. You know, I hate this group of people. I hate those types. I hate people who believe differently than me or whatever, okay? So as a cultural identity or a personal marker, such as the color of your skin or even hair, you know, that people even have this thing about, oh, redheads, right? You know, they have the whole thing about, oh, redheads. Not that, you know, genetically red hair doesn't make people have more nerves in their body and they're more sensitive emotionally, and so they are a little bit more volatile, but people get these labels that is a blame. It's a throw of a blame. So we are quick to blame people for decisions and choices from their past, but we are slow to decide if someone has grown or changed. If you are a person who has not walked a path of change, you will not be able to identify the difference from a person's past and who they now have become. So notice that. If you have not walked your own path of change, you will not believe that anyone else can really change because you haven't changed. And that's just not true. People can change. I believe everybody has the ability to change. That does not mean that they will change, but they have the capacity to change. That's really important because, you know, if we lock somebody in and say, you know, they're never going to change, they're never going to get it, whatever, you know, you project that onto the person and it locks them even deeper into that pattern. You know, we get into these loops or habits. And it's amazing how if you just change one perspective, then that person also will change. Their energy field will change because they're not being energetically put into a box based on your projection. And a lot of people don't have enough awareness or even personal power to recognize that they are in your perceptual box. They just know they feel really uncomfortable. So learn to evaluate a person based not on their past, but on who they are and who they have become right now. None of us are perfect. I mean, my God, everyone has made poor choices and done things that would be embarrassing even now. And, you know, most of us were not raised in the modern time where everything is out there through social media and the cameras and actions of others. And then people are stupid enough to put it actually on social media, which is so insane. So, I mean, I sit there and I look at, you know, oh my God, you know, the crazy things that happened when I was in New York on my own from the time I was 15 to 17. I mean, like, and they were minor, but they were crazy for me at the time. And then, I lived in Berlin, Germany when the wall was up, and the insanity of that, and the craziness that was going on in Berlin at that time, and the secrecy and the spying and it was crazy. And I'm grateful that nobody was walking around with a camera following me around when, the Stasi pulled me into East Germany and didn't want to let me out. It's like, there's all these crazy things that happen to people, and I don't think I'm the only one that crazy things happens to, but learn to be kind. Learn to let others grow in their own way. You do not need to handhold other people and make them go your way. Who says your way is the only way or the right way? There are many pathways home. There are many twists and turns that can take us all off track. We are in a time when so many are suffering and in pain. We are in a time when many have been suffering in silence. We are in a time when the emotions are heightened to the point that most have never experienced. So do what you can to understand those emotions and where they come from, where they are rooted in the psyche, and help someone free themselves from the pain and turmoil they keep inflicting on others. And recognize and see that they are also inflicting pain and turmoil on their own soul. Right? Like, do you need to add to that? Like, no. Right? So, just stop. Just stop. All right. Astrology today. I am sure everybody has been noticing how incredibly stressful this has been emotionally. And I will even tell a personal story. So the other day, like you've heard me say, it's like we've been renovating this building and we've got this enormous garden. And, we've been doing so much. And we've accomplished incredible amounts in 6 months. It's phenomenal. But you also just get to a point you're just exhausted. You're just so tired. And even me, I got to my snap point yesterday, and at least I am willing to do what I'm telling you guys to do. So I noticed I hit my snap point. I noticed it's not about anybody else. If I'm in reaction, it's about me. It is not about anybody else. It's about me. So here's this energy that's coming at me, and I trigger, and I just sit very quietly with myself, and I go, you're triggered, Suzanne. Like, what are you going to do about that? Like, what is that about? And I allow myself to play it out. Worst case scenario, I let my volatile side out in my head. That screaming, that's it, what the fuck, I'm not doing that, like I let that part out, because I find when you suppress those parts, they just actually get louder. So I want to hear that part. I'm like, okay, I hear you, I'm 100% with you, I totally hear you with this. And so, I recognized that to continue doing the activity that I was doing at the building when I was triggered was not a good idea, because I was at the end of my rope, and if anybody pushed me one more half a second, I was going to snap. And that's, to me, the hardest thing in consciousness is to recognize you're approaching the door where you're going to snap, and before you get to the door, you back away from the door, so you step back from the door. So I stepped back from the door, and I just made an excuse. I said, I'm going to go make lunch, and I'm gonna head out, and and I wasn't finished with the project I was doing, which I'm almost always the person who will finish my project, but I was like, if I don't get out of here, I'm gonna snap. And so then when my husband came back in the door and he was like, are you okay? I'm like, actually, no. Actually, no, I am not okay. And I was like, by that point, I'd had an hour to think about what was my bottom line. And so I gave him my bottom line. I go, okay, this is the line. This is what I will do, what I can do, what I can't do. This is what I hate. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. And so that's the end of that, right? And very rarely will I be like that. So, you have to really get me to an edge and put me into a zone that is something I really, really don't want to do. So he was like, whoa, okay, got it, totally got it. I completely get it. So I know I'm feeling that way. I talked to one of my friends and she was like, oh yeah, no, I was feeling that way too. And so I think this astrology, we are all emotionally drawn and quartered, and that's the way it feels. We're emotionally drawn and quartered with this insanity that we've all been living with, this surreal, crazy world that is not anything that any of us thought we signed up for, right? So if you're feeling a little bit like you're on your edge, back away from the door. Just back up and back away from the door, because it's not a good door. And at least I know to back away. And so I'm telling you, like, if you hit that, like, back away before you go blah, like this, it's never good. All right. So with that in mind as an overview, we're going to go into some specifics. So Monday is a better day to communicate in relationships, but don't try to make the big decisions when Mercury is turning retrograde in a few days, because we're so close. We're in the shadow of Mercury, and it's like everything looks like it's being still in the sky. And so Mercury is retrograde from October 13th through November 3rd, Election Day. Keep a very positive intention for fair and accurate elections, minus the deception and drama. We can hope. I don't expect it. I know better. I'm older and I know better, and I can see all the writing on the wall, and I know it is not going to be calm and cool and collected, and so I want everybody to stay safe. So with Mercury and Libra on Election Day, I expect disruption to happen all around and after the election, but the intention with the Mercury being in Libra is actually to kind of bring you back to a better balance and to kind of take care of yourself. So take care of anyone doing the wrong thing and intending to harm others. So take care of the people around you and protect those that need your protection and support. If you see somebody being targeted, I mean, you stand up. For God's sake, stand up. And grab as many people as you can with you and go, are you with me? Are you with me? And then, form a line and protect that person. Do not let the bullies win. This is the most critical moment ever. And so you need to set that intention right now. And, and to not hurt anybody. This is not about hurting anybody. This is about, like the line of women. It's like I love that story about the trees that the Buddha got enlightened under. It was a sacred grove of trees, and nobody had ever chopped it down because it was sacred, and this one crazy megalomaniac, sociopathic leader in India decided to cut down the trees, and the women formed a line. The women, their hands all together, and they were just like, no, you're not taking the trees down, right? That's what I want. I want these impenetrable feminine lines that just go, I don't think so, right? So, because you're gonna need to have that decided in your core before it happens. Not that it will happen to you, but to be prepared in your mind and your body to know where your line is, and so that you follow through with that. Okay. Jupiter and Neptune formed the last sextile early in the day on Monday, and at this point you should feel strongly about something. It's time to pursue that dream and vision with great compassion and know that the spirit and the very soul of our country is being threatened. It is up to us to do what is right. Remember, there are always good people everywhere, just like there are a few bad apples that act out in ways that are loud and obnoxious everywhere. Okay, so follow the goodness in humanity and speak up when those that want to harm our world, our way of life, our land, our lifestyle, and our people show up. Mercury and Venus form a sextile, and it will make diplomatic steps seem a little bit more possible. So be objective and intelligent about what you are feeling. Use this graceful moment to support our society in the ways that are needed the most. You will notice that clarification is needed in lots of areas. Talk things through, be objective on your feelings, and realize what you can and can't do. my quote for the day. It's a long one. Just giving you a heads up. It hurts my heart when people judge others. It hurts me in a way that takes my breath away. It hurts because we all feel the same pains. It hurts because we all feel the same love. It hurts because everyone is trying to find their way. It hurts because your judgment is hate. And hate in all forms hurts. Hate hurts when it is ignored, when it ignores, because what another person feels has no value to them. Hate hurts when it blames, because it is those that hate that put others into positions that are less than, and then they blame those already suffering for showing that they are suffering. Hate hurts because it justifies in ways that cause shame and embarrassment. Those that are struggling to make it through do not need more of your shame and guilt on them. This type of hate is a form of tremendous cruelty. I am tired of all the hurt. I am tired of all the hate. They are one and the same. They are unconscious cruelty in action in our world. And then I did the short and sweet version. Hate hurts because it ignores. Hate hurts because it blames. Hate hurts because it justifies. I am tired of all the hurt. I am tired of all the hate. They are one and the same. They are unconscious cruelty in action in our world. And then my blog today is actually from a friend's timeline, and so I did not write this, but it was just too perfect to not connect with and share today. So this is somebody else, and it's from a person whose name is Diane and who wrote this. And I would give her last name if I had it, but I don't have it. Okay, so this is what she said. I asked a friend who had crossed 70 and is headed towards 80 what sort of changes he is feeling in himself. He sent me the following. Number 1. After loving my parents, my sibling, my spouse, my children, and my friends, I have now started loving myself. Number 2. I have realized that I am not Atlas. The world does not rest on my shoulders. Number 3. I have stopped bargaining with vegetable and fruit vendors. A few pennies more is not going to break me, but it might help the poor fellow save for his daughter's school fees. Number 4. I leave my waitress a big tip. The extra money might bring a smile to her face. She is toiling much harder for a living than I am. Number 5. I stopped telling the elderly that they've already narrated that story many times. The story makes them walk down memory lane and relive their past. Number 6. I have learned not to correct people even when I know they are wrong. The onus of making everyone perfect is not on me. Peace is more precious than perfection. Number 7. I give compliments freely and generously. Compliments are a mood enhancer, not only for the recipient, but also for me. And a small tip for the recipient of a compliment: never, never turn it down. Just say thank you. Number 8. I have learned not to bother about a crease or a spot on my shirt. Personality speaks louder than appearances. Number 9. I walk away from people who don't value me. They might not know my worth, but I do. Number 10, I remain cool when someone plays dirty to outrun me in the rat race. I am not a rat, and neither am I in any race. Number 11, I am learning not to be embarrassed by my emotions. It's my emotions that make me human. Number 12, I have learned that it's better to drop the ego than to break a relationship. My ego will keep me aloof, whereas with relationships, I will never be alone. I have learned to live each day as if it's the last. After all, it might be the last. Number 14, I am doing what makes me happy. I am responsible for my happiness, and I owe it to myself. Happiness is a choice. You can be happy at any time. Just choose to be. And then the final thing she said was, I decided to share this with all my friends. Why do we have to wait to be 60, 70, or 80? Why can't we practice all of this at any stage and any age? And this is my little bit about it. So time passes so quickly in life, and you have to learn to just be real. Give others respect and support. Be kind. Listen. Recognize that the stories people tell you were the most important events in their life that shaped their world and their personality. It is what they are the most proud of, and they are trying to show you who they really are. Sometimes those stories are an attempt to make sense out of an event that still troubles them. They are speaking out loud in order to try to understand something that still is difficult. Perhaps your perspective could give them solace and freedom from a past pain. Okay, thanks everyone. You have a good day.